everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Kim. Thank you so much for stopping by my channel today and seeing what I thought about the books that I read in January. To start off, I will cover the books that I DNF'd. Again, it was just they didn't work for me. However, if you're interested in them, I would suggest you try them out for yourself and see what you think, because again, everyone has their own little niche, own little way of responding to books. For whatever reason, they just didn't work for me. So I will never not tell you not to read a book unless it is absolutely just horrific grammar or everything is just really wrong with the book. It wasn't well edited and that sort of thing. But overall, the concepts, they may be something that you're more interested in than I was at the time. Alright, so disclaimer aside, the first book that I DNF'd, this is The Demon of Brownsville Road by Bob Cranmer and Erica Manfred. I have tried to read this book at least 3 times, and each time I DNF'd it. The writing style, it was just not for me. It kind of goes back to the past for when he was a kid, to the present. And typically that doesn't really bother me, but the way that it was just crafted, it just didn't work for my taste and how I like my stories to flow. And it just didn't click for me. Again, I gave it 3 shots. I think that was plenty, that it was just not meant for me to read. So I can't really tell you a lot about it because I just didn't get into it far enough before I DNF'd it. But it's supposed to have been a paranormal house haunting, that sort of thing. It just didn't hit the mark for me. Then the next one I don't have a physical copy of, so I'll put a picture up on the screen. It was Storm of Lies. I gave this one, I think I got into like chapter 16 or 17 before I just finally DNF'd it. I wasn't getting along with the characters. The guy, I just don't know what it was about how the author crafted the characters. I just didn't connect with them and kind of knew where the story was kind of going, and I lost interest in the plot line of it, so I DNF'd it. But it was, I think, supposed to be a romantic suspense style book. I did replace that one with Devious Little Liars. Again, the buzzword on was lies, truth, those type of words. So yeah, that's what I replaced that one with. And I really did enjoy Devious Little Liars. I gave it a 4-star. It is kind of a bully-esque romance. They are in high school, which typically is not where I like to read, but overall it was good. I think they were either juniors. I think they were seniors, because I think she's going in her senior year when all the shenanigans went on. Who were our characters? There were three interests. Rafe, Banjo, and Colt were the 3 male interests, and Jillian was the female main character. Again, there was, starting off with that story, you find out that her stepfather was killed. There was a fire at the school where she was had broken in to practice piano. There was a fire that started, and he was killed in that fire. She's kind of what the police are calling the suspect right now, even though she didn't do it, because you were in her perspective as it was going on. Someone, a mysterious man, took her out of the burning building, but there didn't seem to be any footage of this taking place, so she is on the hunt to try to find the person that set the fire and kind of prove her innocence in it. So it was really good. Like I said, I gave it 4 stars. If you're into kind of the bully romance, again, this is on the high school, so it's a little bit more petty on those type of squabbles in school. So that part, kind of knocked it down a little bit for there. It's just not my taste. If it was more university, I think I would enjoyed it more. But overall, I would recommend at least picking up the first book. May continue the series later if I have a place for it, but it's not on my top priority list because I got plenty of series I need to continue, so I kind of put it on the back burner. So those were my 2DNFs, The Storm of Lies, and then the physical book. I will be unhauling this book. I don't need it on my bookshelves. The next one I have, let's try to go in somewhat of order, but not really. I'm going to try to go through the books that I don't have physical copies of, and then we will get into my physical copies. The next book that I read was Cyclone. This is a romantic suspense. You're following Anne and Zach. They knew each other from the past. His wife had been killed in an accident, and at the funeral, after the funeral, they kind of hooked up. He blamed her for trying to replace his wife, even though they were both grieving at the same time. And then they split ways. He tells her to leave. She takes it as, I don't want you in town. So she leaves, goes off. She, grows up, finishes schooling, has a job, ends up divorced, and then she comes back for various reasons. I don't want to overly explain it, and then you want to pick up the book. And then they meet up again. She comes back as a doctor, I think ER doctor. And in comes Zach from a motorcycle accident. He doesn't want to be treated by her because he still blames her for that incident, even though he has kind of blacked it out because he was incredibly drunk at that time and inebriated. And so he has blacked some of it out, but he knows something has happened between them, and their story just goes on and converges and uncovers all the secrets. And then they just have to try to figure out how to resolve their issues from that night and then moving forward. Oh, yes. And then where the suspense comes in, there is someone who is kind of stalking her, which again throws the two together and all of that. So again, they were trying to overcome their past and trying to save her from this stalker person who has committed several different crimes within the area, that have done SAs and Rs with females within their surrounding towns for where they live. And so yes, it was really good, and the author was Janie Crouch. Again, I'll have the picture up above because I don't have a physical copy of that book. All right, the next book that I want to talk about, this is The Warlord Wants Forever. This is by Cressley Cole. Again, I'll have the picture up above. This is a novella because I'm part of reading the Mortals After Dark series with Amanda Reed's Romance. I'll have her channel linked down below, but she's started this read-along to read through all the books in this series. So we started off with the prequel. So this was Mist and Nikolai's story. I gave it, I believe, 3 stars. It was okay. Again, novellas are not my thing for the most part. They can be done well. I just wanted more from this story than what we got. It felt rushed. You didn't really get us time to really see Mist and Nikolai's story, their romance build. It was just almost insta-lovey, and I'm not a huge fan of that. And I know this author, I know her works. I think this may have been done after the series had started, or some authors to go back and do prequels. So it just didn't feel to me fully fleshed out. I wanted more. I wanted more from them. I wanted to see it on page and not just rush through it for the sake of having a prequel book. I wanted them to have their own full-length story. That is mine. But again, so Mist, she is a Valkyrie. Nikolai, I believe he is a vampire. He is one that's called a forebearer, where they do not drink from a living source. And he is part of kind of a revolution from the vampires against the Horde, which are very vicious vampires. They don't care. They're kind of mad, insane. from all of the victims and their memories that they take in when they drain from the source, which are humans or whatever creature they take their blood from. So he's in a war against the Horde. He gets captured. No. He captures her at this castle when he thought there was going overthrowing the Horde that was there. She ended up getting, I think she got captured, and he imprisoned her, trying to torture her to get information from her, and it spawns on from there. I do enjoy in this world that vampires really don't have beating hearts until they find their bride, their fated love, which Mist apparently is, and it just felt rushed. So the idea, I love the plot idea. I just didn't think it was fully fleshed out, in my opinion. So that was the next one. Anyways, Minx is a shifter. Again, I'll put the picture up. A shifter romance, again, going into college, I believe. Kind of university college area. She, is having some issues. I think she set something on fire at her school. She was blamed for it, even though she didn't think she had done it. So her parents send her off to the school to find out about her gifts. I ended up rating it 2 stars. It was okay. Didn't hit all the marks for me. Kind of predictable. And then I won't be continuing the series. So it didn't leave a lot of positive vibes for me. Again, I don't remember the main characters because I forgot. There are several that I did not do my synopsis for. So the next book that I have to share with you that I did finish, this is Shatter Me. It is a, I would say, kind of young adult. You are in Juliet's head. You immediately find her dropped into the story. She's in this insane asylum. This is where people with powers, so I guess kind of an urban paranormal type of book, urban fantasy. But anyways, you are following Juliet. You are in her head a ton. I don't remember the male character, main character, what his name was, and it doesn't tell you in the synopsis either. It's been a while since I've read this book. But this is an old series that has been around on BookTube before. You may be more familiar with it. The author is, and I'll probably butcher her name, Tahira Mafi, I believe is how you say her name. You're following her. You're dropped into her brain. You're in her mind pretty much the entire time of the whole book. I did listen to it on audio, which I think made the experience a lot better than if I was reading, because you constantly hear her scratching out thoughts in her brain. So that was, I don't know if that's really done in the book itself, because I do not have a physical copy of it, but you hear that scratching out, and then she corrects it in her mind what she wanted to say. But as you follow her through, the main character is introduced. I can't remember his name for the life of me. I am terrible with names. Even in real life, I am horrible at remembering names. But anyways, he comes in. She thinks he's another patient as her roommate, shoved in their interactions, and then as it unfolds, you come to understand that they apparently had known each other as younger children growing up. He comes from a kind of abusive background himself. She comes from more of a neglected household, where they will not touch her because her power can, by touch, which kind of reminds me of the X-Men, who was it? I just had her characters, Rogue, where she touches someone, she could kill them. Kind of very similar with Juliet, who is the female main character. She cannot touch anyone. She cannot be hugged of any sort. The minus touch of her skin, whether it's fingers, her face, any type of skin exposure, touch to touch, and she inflicts a lot of pain, and if you held on long enough, could kill the person. So you follow her, and then she is taken and removed from the asylum and taken to the people who are in power, and you find out that he wants to use her for her power, wants to create and make her a monster just like him, to keep them in power, because he wants to please his father, who is higher up in the hierarchy of those in power. And then the other male character was a soldier, so she thought he had betrayed her, and then a lot of other things happen, and she ends up being manipulated for a while, and then they kind of escape from that situation, and they end up with joining the revolution. And that's kind of where you left off with the book itself. I'm not going to go into all the details, but that's kind of the synopsis of it. People are wanting to use her for her power, manipulate her into being this killer, and her fight against wanting to be that, because she actually has a conscience. So I gave it, I believe I gave it a 4-star rating, but I want to verify. Yeah, I did give it a 4-star rating. Hello, Nix. Little love, you've got to go down though. Down you go. Alright, so I believe that is all of my either audiobooks or ebooks that I read for January. So let us get into my thoughts on the physical books that I did read. Alright, so my lowest rated book for my physical ones, this is A Ruin of Roses by K.F. Breen. It is a Beauty and the Beast retelling, but I've seen it done better, much, much better. For as big as this book is, it just didn't do it for me. So you are following, Trinity is the main character, and Nefrain, I believe, is the male character's name. They are in a cursed land. He is a cursed dragon shifter, and they're not supposed to go into the forest. And she does, because their town, their little village is dying, so she has found a way to make it an elixir, and the flower or plant that makes the elixir is found in the Forbidden Forest. So she goes through, she's not like the other villagers, she is very tomboyish, instead of worrying about getting married and having kids, etc. But she is a wolf shifter, I believe, who they're unable to shift because of the curse that the demon who has taken over their world has cursed their land, so they cannot shift. Any type of shifter cannot shift. So he ended up taking her because she trespassed. He takes her from her home, spares her family, and takes her back to his castle. I really just didn't enjoy it. Like, the premise is great, the plot was great, idea, it just, to me, wasn't well done, I guess would be the way I would say it. And then the spicy scenes, they were very spicy, but a lot of them, I think, were just put in more as shock value, I would guess, than anything, and I don't particularly enjoy that in my books. I like the scenes to have purpose, have meaning behind them, and it just fell and just missed the mark for me. They're very much enemies, but then by the end of it, it's all of a sudden he cares for her, he self-sacrificed for her, and then all of a sudden she changes her mind, but there was no reason behind it, so it just felt disjointed, I guess. Yeah, so I didn't care for it. I don't think I could recommend it, and you may give it a try, and it may suit your taste better. It was just not for me. So that one will most likely definitely be unhauled, because I don't want to keep a 2-star rated book on my bookshelf. Alright, so the next book that I read, I gave it 5 stars. I love this series. I love the first one. I think this is the second one. following Adalia and Finn. So Adalia, she was taken advantage of by her mentor, and so she moves back to Asheville to, take part in setting up, I think, like the social media aspects of the brewery that her older sister, I think his older sister, runs with her husband. And then there is this character, the main character, Finn. He sees her creating art and then destroying it all of a sudden, and he wants to know more, and he concocts this whole plan of how to get her to go back to her art because she is denying it, doesn't want to have anything to do with it anymore, even though it is pretty much part of her soul that she has to create in some fashion. So it's all about him trying to help her out and everything that results from that. Of course, there's a miscommunication trope that is actually in here that blows up, of course, in the third act. But it was still a fun ride. I enjoyed it. Enjoyed her, just everything about it. The spicy scenes are great. A lot of it kind of, is a little bit more so behind closed doors, so you don't see all of the spicy scenes, but the story itself is what I enjoyed. So it was great. I really would recommend this series. This is by A.R. Casella and Denise Grover Swank. If you love romance books, this is contemporary. I think will hit most people's sweet spot, I think. So I enjoyed it. Would highly recommend that one. You guys know, if you've been on my channel here recently, that I love Darcy Coates. This was, I think this is around book 2 or 3 that I've read from her. This is Dead of Winter. This is isolated. She does atmospheric so well. 5-star rating, even though I had figured out who had done everything. But there are so many red herrings that's like, no, it cannot possibly be. But then it's like, well, it could be because of X. But no, then this person seems more like could have done it. So it kept you guessing, even though I've had figured it out way early on. Because I'm going in, I know there's a mystery, someone is killing. So I'm all over the place with this review. I did love it. So you're following Krista. She is going on this vacation with her boyfriend, Garrick, I think is his name. Started with a G. Nope, I was wrong. Didn't start with a G. I was way off. Hello, lovies. This is Nyx. But you gotta go down. She will claim everything, and then she will swipe at me and draw blood if I'm not careful. Anyway, so you're following Krista, and she's on vacation with her boyfriend, Kieran. They get stuck on the side of the road on this van going toward the resort because they're running into kind of a blizzard or a snowstorm. Anyways, go. Go, go. Psst. Go. Gonna burn your butt. Alright, you stay there and don't swipe at me. We'll see how this goes. Anyways, I will get this review up. Maybe. So you're following Krista and Kieran. They're on their way to a winter vacation up in the mountains where he says he is from. They're going to the resort. Anyways, you find them on this bus. They get stuck on the side of the road in the snowstorm because a tree had fallen over in front of them and crossed the road. So they stop in order to, cut up the tree, try to remove it enough for them to get past it. And so the driver tells them, don't go too far off the trail, but you're able to get off the bus, because it's going to be a while. So Kieran takes her on a walk, to explore the area, and they get lost and she ends up falling down a ravine because the snowstorm is increasing, and you see her fall and him trying to save her. And so she's trapped in the snowstorm. She continues walking once she comes to and digs her way out of this pile of snow. And she ends up at this cabin where the other companions from that bus ended up there as well. Let's see. So as the day goes on, or evening, I can't remember, one of their companions ends up being killed and beheaded, and it takes off from there. They're trying to figure out, was it one of their party who had did it? Is it someone from the mountains that lives up here that is committing this crime or has committed the crime? And as the story progresses, each traveler is being killed off. And I don't want to say too much more because there are a lot of twists that I was not expecting that took place. But again, I figured out who it was early on, but like I said, there were so many red herrings that took you off in all of these different tangents of who it could have been. She does it so well. Absolutely. Even though I'd figured it out, there was enough surprising things that happened that I still gave it a 5-star. So I would recommend her if you are into atmospheric stories, way of writing, and all the twists and turns that you think you're going to figure it out, but you might not. And there is always a surprise twist towards the end of the book. Every book that I've read from her, there has been a surprising twist. So I would definitely recommend her if you're into suspense thrillers. Kind of leans into horror as well, but yeah, I would highly recommend her. This one, the Atlas 6 by Olivia Blake, I softy enough. I'm not going to get rid of it yet. I was just simply not in the mood for this particular book. So I did softy enough that I don't want to get rid of it yet, because later in the year I may be more into the dark academia style book, but just not right now. Alright, the next book that I meant to do at the beginning, because it is also an ebook, this is A Hunger Like No Other. It is also part of the Immortals After Dark series. This is a full-length novel. I think it is the first book in the series that is the first full-length novel. You are following Emmeline and Lachlan's. This is their story. He is a werewolf. She is a half Valkyrie, half vampire. And in this world, no one likes the vampires at all. They are isolated. They are feared for very good reasons. However you are dropped into the story, I would highly suggest checking trigger warnings for this book, because there is a lot of torture at the very beginning. You find Lachlan trapped underground, where I think is on a kind of a semi-active volcano, because he is burned alive, and because he is more or less immortal, he is brought back. And he has been trapped, I think it said 150 years he has been gone, trapped and tortured like this, and a lot of other things. And in order to escape, he did have to do self-mutilation in order to get out. And the only reason he had the willpower to do that is because he scented his mate, which happened to be Emmeline. And because vampires tortured him, he has a very negative view of vampires. He wants revenge on them, because not only did they trap and torture him, they also killed off his family as well. So he has every reason in the world to hate vampires. And now it is their story of how does he overcome his prejudice towards vampires and take care of his mate, because his instinct is to take care of her, but because his torture, he has been tortured for so long, his mind when he meets her is still highly messed up because of everything he has experienced. So there are some scenes where he does not treat her the best, because of everything he's gone through, and literally he met her not long after escaping. So it is their story. She is very innocent. Her aunts, her Valkyrie aunts, have sheltered her so much, so she is considered kind of weak in their eyes, that has to be, you know, coddled and taken care of. So again, it's about her trying to explore her independence. So she goes to, I believe, it's somewhere in Europe. I can't remember if it's England or France. I think it's France, where she ends up meeting him, and it takes off from there, her exploration. I cried at the ending, and this is a reread for me, but it's been years, probably 10 plus years since I've read this book. It still hit me hard, because I still remember some things, but I didn't remember that twist at the end. So that was exciting to have seen as well. So that, again, had the picture up there for you guys. That was my last ebook. This was a surprise. The very last book that I'd read at the end of January. This is Pucking Around by Emily Rath. This is a hockey romance. I loved everything about it. It is very slow burn in a lot of ways. I mean, she's a chunker of a book. But as big as it is, it doesn't feel like that. It is a fast read in some respects. It was easy to read. Pretty much what I really needed to get myself back into reading as a whole. Because the last year, I just didn't read as much. But you are following Rachel, Jake, Mars, and Caleb are the main characters in this story. I was not expecting going in, because I didn't really read the synopsis of it to know that there would be a male-male aspect of it, especially the spicy scenes that happen. And again, that's out of my comfort zone. We each have our comfort level when it comes to spicy scenes. That just takes me out of that. When there's a multi-partner relationship, I like it to be just the male to the female. That is just for me, my personal preferences. But it was still, outside of that, it was still heartwarming. You've got to see them grow as individuals, how they grow in their relationships. You did know going in there was going to be a fallout, because she is their doctor for the NHL sports teams, the Rays, which they're all connected to it. Jake is I think he's the defense. I think he's the defenseman. Mars is the goalie, and then Caleb is the equipment manager, and it goes into why everything happens. So they're all connected to the league, and there is a clause that you're not supposed to fraternize between them, and she has a fellowship to be their doctor. She's a physical therapist, I believe, for hips and knees is her specialty. And it's all about their romance, how they build it, how they're hiding it, and all of the things. So you know it's going to be revealed at some point, and then the fallout from that. Would recommend. Started book 2, about probably a quarter way through it. But yeah, I would highly recommend if you love sports romances, or if you're getting into sports romance and you don't mind the white shoes trope and the male-male spicy scenes, I think you would enjoy it. I just kind of skimmed over those. Again, it's not my preference. Another one, this had been a kind of a long running. I was reading it both audio and physical, and as an immersion reading as well. This is From Below by, of course, Darcy Coates. I had started this probably well in December, and I was reading a little bit here, a little bit there. But just not consistency, but I did finish it in January. But you're following this crew. They are going to discover if this sunken ship was actually the Arcadia that had been lost years and years and years ago. And you're following Cove and her crew that's going there to document it. A lot of things went on. You go on the dive, so when they get there, because they hadn't planned on actually doing physical dives at first, they were going to send down electronic kind of robots that were built to survive the depths. because it's over like, I can't remember, like 300, I don't know if they're miles down. It's a huge depth where you have to regulate yourself as you go down and then coming back up. But again, she does such good atmospheric. Like, I would find myself struggling to breathe. Like, it affected me physically the way she wrote it. And then listening also to the audio. It was so well done. Again, she was a chunker, but I didn't feel like it was unnecessary because you got the current timeline, but you also got the past timeline of how the Arcadia sunk. So it was really well woven together. I would highly recommend it. It was creepy when you went down and you were exploring the Arcadia. Things started happening. Things started coming alive because of the depths that they are down there. The people that they found hadn't really deteriorated because there's no bacteria to deteriorate and eat away at the skin. It's the way it was explained. Oh my God. I still get creeped out about it. So it was so creepy, so well done. If you haven't tried Darcy Coates, I would highly recommend it because I think this made book 4 out of her list that I've read. I have not found a bad one yet. Yeah, she does suspense thrillers so well. So well. The next one, this was Wildlands. This is book 2 of the Savage Land series. So Brexley, you're following her. She had escaped. It's called this prison called Halahaz at the end of book 1. And then, so Farkas is the last name. Warwick is his first name. So he ends up betraying her at the end of book 1. And he sells her off to the Fae King that is kind of in control of this Fae realm that has merged with Earth. So it's kind of an urban fantasy style book. And so Brexley, she is forced, to go habitate with Killian. She's imprisoned with him and then runs all these tests on him. And then it shows him that he's actually trying to help humans, trying to discover what's going on with this drug. And you find out he's been testing on her, but she is apparently immune to it. And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, after he's treated her this way, he kisses her. There's no lead up, no anything, and then all of a sudden she's starting to have feelings for him, but I don't know if it's supposed to be just like the allure of the Fae that is supposed to have sprung that on. It just felt out of place. So I didn't care for that, but again, there is a connection between Warwick and Brexley where they can enter each other's mind and actually see what's going on, their emotions, and all of that. So he helps her escape from Killian after selling her to him. It was weird. So she escapes that. She ends up back with her kind across the border, and then she discovers a plot going on there that makes her have to then run from what she thought would be her safety, where she belongs, all of that. So she's having to run from that, and she ends up back across the border because Warwick again saves her once again, and then their adventures again continue from there. And then of course there was a surprise ending that I wasn't expecting on that, and it left you kind of on a cliffhanger of where she's currently at now. So I can't wait to go into book 3, as you saw already, because I've already posted my February TBR. Book 3 from this series got chosen from the Dragon Egg. It wanted me to continue out the series, at least to all the books that I currently own for this series. But yeah, so if you're into kind of a darker, more brutal Fae, I'll call it more fantasy romance because the romance is more of a subplot. It's woven through it, but it's not the main focus of the story. I think you should give the Savage Lands a try. I would definitely recommend that. And then, let me double check. The only book I have left to talk about, I've already posted a video about it and my thoughts about the Bonesmith, so I'll leave it linked down in the description. But this is Bonesmith by Nikki Powell Preto. I love this book so much. Please go back and look at that vlog that I did to reading my special editions, because I gave you all of the things about this book. I gave it a 5-star. I immediately put the second book into my cart to purchase, even though it's not a special edition. I looked everywhere trying to find a special edition of, I think it's called Ghostsmith. I couldn't find one, so I settled for the hardback version of it. It's just a simple one, and for that. And if you've seen I'll also link down below my haul, my birthday book haul, where I showed you book 2 out of this series. But I enjoyed it so much. You were following, and I'm terrible, like I said, with names, so you're following Ren and her and Julian. So Ren is the main character, female character. Julian is the main male character. There is the slightest, tiniest bit of a romance, sort of, between these two, but it's not your main focus. Definitely a fantasy book with a subplot of a romance. But again, you are dropped into this world, and you learn this world real fast, because you're dropped into this kind of trial where Ren is having to uphold her family legacy, trying to win the approval of her grandmother, who's kind of like the matriarch of the Bonesmiths, and all the things that happened. She ended up disgracing her family instead, but I'm not going to tell you how or why, but it ends up getting her sent away to the border to try to save face, and because she's now exiled into the army as kind of, I don't remember, she's like a healer, or is to help on that line as a bonesmith with what abilities she does have. And then ends up, she's there, she seems to be set up. You find this prince who's not the actual heir to the throne. He's kind of what they call the spare prince, and his unhappiness there. So he's kind of thrown in a little bit, that sets up where they're doing a tour of the place, and they're set upon by raiders against the enemy from the outlands that was across the border, and it goes on from there. I highly recommend this. I can't stop gushing about it, but again, I go into more detail about the book in that vlog, so please go check it out, my reactions to it as I don't. But I love everything about this book. All right, and I think I will double check just to make sure I haven't missed any of the books. I think that's everything. All right. So that was a lot of books. I think it ended up being, I think I attempted 14 books, but I ended up reading 12 of them, 12 or 13, somewhere around in there, because again, I think Pucking Around ended up being, I think, my 13th book. Ended up reading. So that was a surprise book at the very end of January. But yeah, I hope you have enjoyed today's video of me wrapping up my kind of final thoughts on all of these books that I managed to read. A couple of them I couldn't really recommend just because it was not great writing. But overall, give them a try. You may enjoy them. I never want to say don't ever read it, but I just personally couldn't recommend them to you just because either A, I didn't read it, or B, the writing style, or if it was just, to me, not well written. But give it a shot. You may enjoy it. But until my next video, you guys have a great one.